This is a G power chord, but also this one is a G power chord. They have the same name, but quite a different sound. One is tight and, let's say, agile. It works a lot, right? We heard this like many different songs, but this one, well, this one is way more open and, you know, it has kind of a bite. So what's the difference between these two chords? So first of all, we have to ask ourselves, what's a power chord? We use power chords pretty much all the time with guitar, you know, with electric guitar, but what actually is a power chord? It's better to explain what's a chord. A chord is supposed to have at least 3 different notes, starting from the root. For example, in G, the root is actually G. All right, this note here. Then we'd like to have the third, so we just have to count G, A, and then B. So this is the third of the chord, and if we play those 2 notes together, we have this one. Not a chord still. We need a third note, that's the 5th. Again, we can count G, A, B, C, D. The D is our 5th. So we have, for example, the D string open, and we can play this one. Well, this is a G chord with a little bit of distortion, and things start a little bit to be messy. Why? Well, because, you know, distortion makes a lot of good stuff. It has sustain, you know, we have this nice gain, aggressive sound, but we can lose a little bit of definition and clarity when we play chords. And for instance, if I will play the usual G chord that many of you probably know, right? Like this one. Or even worse, this one. Well, it's not like that bad, but it's definitely a little bit dissonant. Why? Well, because the third that we have in the chord mixed with gain give us a little bit of, you know, dissonant, because the third interval, it's a little bit like that. It's not super stable. Well, so what's a power chord? Basically, a power chord is a chord that doesn't have the third, so we will have just the root of the chord and the 5th. And why that? Well, because it sounds really good with distortion, like this one or this one. We don't have that, you know, that instability anymore, because the 5th interval is really stable, okay? So, now that we know what a power chord is, and actually it's not really a chord, because a chord is supposed to have 3 notes at least, and then we can have, you know, 7th, 9th, 11th, 13th, you know, stuff like that, but it's not the matter of this video. However, a power chord, it's not really a chord, it's a bicordo in Italian, all right? So just 2 notes, but we can repeat these notes as many times as we want, as long as the guitar is tuned well. Maybe didn't choose the perfect guitar to be in tune, right? But as long as the guitar is at least, you know, in good tuning condition, we should have a massive sound without any instability. So how do we create power chords? Well, we can build power chords, for example, in this way. We just have the root of the chord, the G, and then the 5th. All right, just here. And you know, the guitar, it's a really hard instrument to play, but this stuff, it's quite amazing, because we can just move this shape and we don't have to think about a lot of stuff, and we know that the power chord is always working, and we just have to remember where we place the index finger. So in this case we will have the G power chord. If we play this note as a root note, we know that this is an A power chord and this is a C power chord. As long as we know the notes on the E string, we're okay. We just have to build the fifth on top of that. All right, so okay, and then if we want, we can add another octave that is just here on the same fret where the fifth is, using this shape. So the power chord will be a little bit more full because we will have the root, the fifth, and then the octave above. Okay, but it's not as wide and broad as this one. This one is even more full. It definitely sounds more like AC/DC, right? Well, what's the other power chord? The other power chord, it's what I called a subtractive power chord, okay? I don't know if that's a real concept, but in guitar it applies really well. And what do you have to know in order to play this kind of chords? Well, you should know kind of the easy chords that we learn when we start to play guitar. The open chords like G, like D, like A, like F, or E. I'm trying to play really soft in order to not have that much gain, but if I'm, playing hard, again we will have, this kind of unstable sound. So once we know these chords, but if you don't know them, don't worry about it. Just give me a second. We can just subtract the third of those chords and we will have a power chord. So for example, in G major here, we just have 1/3. All the other notes that we are playing are roots or fifths, okay? So we just have to identify the third and basically don't play it. So the third, as we said before, is here. So how can we avoid to play that note? Well, we can just, use the little fat that we have here on our middle finger and just, let it rest on the A string, okay? And then we can just play the other strings because we have the root, and then we have the D, the G, again another D, so root, fifth, root, fifth. If we want, we can still play also the G on the high E string, and this finger here will just stop, okay, this A in order to prevent the string to ring, and we just have a perfect and super wide power chord, a subtractive power chord. And if you play power chord in this way, they are super wide and super aggressive, I would say. It's not really used in metal, but it's used a lot on rock guitar, rock music, like AC/DC, for example. And whenever you need an open power chord, I would 99% of the time use a shape like that. Especially if I'm playing with just one guitar in the band or the situation I'm in, so I can't stack different parts. If I have to play an open part that needs to have that sense of wideness, I will always go in this direction. So let's see what other power chords we have, and don't worry, I made a cheat sheet. It's available for free on my Patreon. You can find that down below. So all the chords we're discussing now, you'll find that there. So we talked about the G chord, and this is the Power-Chord version. Again, you can choose to play the high G or not. I usually don't, because for example, I can chain this chord to the D. We know that the D chord is here, right? Well, the third is up here, so we just have to not play that string, right? So we'll have these. This is the full volume on guitar. Sounds pretty cool. If we link them, we have super powerful and super wide instead of playing like this. There's nothing wrong with these chords. I use them all the time, but they have kind of a different purpose. They are more agile, maybe to play more complicated riff and stuff, but they sound a little bit thinner. So it's not bad, it's just different. So I think as guitar players, we should know both. Then, for example, the A chord, okay? Or the A minor. Well, we have two options here. The first one is this. Basically, we are playing the open A string and then the E note and again the A here. But if we want to make things a little bit wider, we can use our pinky to have this massive 5-string power chord. Same thing with the E. If we want to play E major or minor, we have E major or E minor. Where's the third? The third is on the G string here. So what can we do? Well, we can, and some guitar players do that. And it's, again, using the fat of the finger here to stop the G, okay, to the G string to ring. And you can just do that. Sounds absolutely cool and fine. If you want to stay more on the safe side, we can do this shape. I'm barring here the B and the E notes, and then I'm playing with the pinky. I'm pressing the 4th fret, okay? So I will have the low E, then B, E, B again, and again B. I'm playing the same note here. Okay, it's an unison, and then again the high E. And it sounds absolutely massive. You can also do this if you want. It's more, it's not that open anymore, but it's a possibility, okay? Sometimes I'm playing also like that, splitting the chords in, it's a possibility that you don't have just playing this. This is really thin, right? Or this one, compared to massive sounding, right? Then we have the C. Well, on C, things are a little bit different because the C chord, it's this one, and the third is here, and again here on the I, E. So we could just, again, stop these string, and just playing C, G, and C again. And that's fine, but basically we have the same chord as here, and it's not really comfortable to play in that position. So many bands, including Guns N' Roses and AC/DC, many bands, used to play this chord. That's not really a pure C power chord, it's a C add 9, but the 9 interval sounds cool. even with distortion, especially if it's displaced in this way and doesn't have any cluster. It sounds complicated right now, but trust me, the C that we would play, that I would play if I have to play this kind of cool chords, would be this one. And if you have good memory, this shape is really quite similar to this one. Actually, it's the same shape as G power chord, but instead of playing the G root on the 6th string, I will play the C note, okay? The root here will be C on the 5th string. And then again, I'm muting the D string and I'm playing G and D. So basically the notes that we will have C, G, and D here. This is the chord that we are playing, right? A C add 9. But you can definitely tell that if I'm playing the G and then going to the C add 9, it's so cool because this note is always here and I have to move, you know, very little in order to change chord. And for example, how many times did you hear this progression? So many times, right? And you know, it works perfectly because we have the D singing all the time there. So then we will have F. Well, F, it's not really an open chord, but you know, it's a chord that we have to play somehow if you're playing in the key of C major, and sometimes happens, and you know, a lot of guitar players struggle to play that chord. Even myself, you know, if I'm playing on an acoustic guitar with very high action, it could be a little bit unpleasant, you know, to play this way. However, we can also play a subtractive power chord in an F major or minor situation, and I'm playing this one. I'm removing the full bar here and just making a short, like a little mini bar or barre, and I'm pressing, and I'm touching with the tip of my index finger the G string, okay, in order to mute it. And so this is the chord. I'm playing C on bass, and then F, that's the root actually. This string is muted, and then C and F, and it sounds like this. Not bad, right? So if you master these kind of chord shapes, you will unlock a wider possibility to sound like more massive, even if you're just playing, you know, if just one guitar playing in your band, or even if you're two guitars, it will be more open, more full sounding, okay? As I said before, you can find the cheat sheet down below. However, I think one of the best things you can do as a guitar player when you learn new stuff, it's try to incorporate immediately what you learn in maybe a composition or your own, or you know, stuff like that. And that's actually what I did, and I composed this little mini song that goes like this. Okay, you can definitely hear that it has a pretty clear AC/DC inspiration, and I mean, why not? AC/DC is just like an amazing band, right? And what did I do? Well, on the first part, on the first verse, I played what I showed you earlier, the A chord with two different variants, right? I did this thing in order to, make a little bit of a twist, because I wanted to, give something to the listener that's not boring, right? So I'm playing this power chord and then this version, okay, the wider one, and then again here, and I'm playing ghost notes between these two shapes, okay, in order to give it a little bit of groove, a little bit more of a funky groove. Not easy though, it's not easy. It really looks easy, but to make it sound cool, it's not that easy. I'll assure you that. And then I'm playing this little riff that is just pentatonic. Why did I do that? Because it's a riff and I wanted to incorporate some notes, some pentatonic stuff that gives a little bit of an hook and a turnaround that would let me, going back to these riff that I wanted to create, right? It's just like, maybe it's a little bit of a songwriting tip, instead of just, okay, this is A or A power chord. Well, this is what I did. Okay? Then I made all other variants, okay, of these section, because since I played it 4 times, little variations are, kind of nice for the same reason as before. So instead of playing the pentatonic at the end of every riff, the second time I played, right? It's pretty similar, but instead of I played similar but not the same. On the third time I played the same stuff as the first time, so it's just like A, B, A, and then the last time I played this. In order to go on the second section. Well, if you like to, understand better my songwriting process and, understand also the other section, what did I do? I made a full lesson on my Patreon, and you can find the transcription, the PDF, the Guitar Pro. If you use that, it's really useful and powerful, and the backing track for, try yourself to record, to jam along with the drum and the bass that I, composed. It's just like a little composition. And also there's a mini video where I'm teaching you all this stuff, why I chose this chord and why this rhythm and stuff like that. So if you'd like to go deeper in this kind of, stuff, well, you know where to find it. And I hope that, this lesson, guys, it's helpful for you. Some of you appreciated my last video and you told me that you wanted to, understand better theory and stuff like that. So drop a comment down below and let me know which are, your doubts and questions that you can have, regarding the guitar, and maybe I can help. Oh, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel in order to, help me out with the YouTube algorithm. And thanks again a lot. See you next time. Ciao.